Question number two is a good question, and one usually people ask in this subject is, how do I know if I'm hearing from God, hearing from me, or hearing from the devil? Or I sometimes like to add, hearing from pizza, How can we discern what's God and what's ourselves? Frankly, the devil I'm less interested in and less bothered about, because I think he's very easy to hear when he says things, but that confidence thing. I can give you several answers to this. The obvious one is it biblical? That's a good start. But it's possible that you could hear something from your own mind, or even, frankly, something from Satan that could be intrinsically biblical, but not what God is saying to you. I would say this. Let me give you two or three answers to say to this. Jesus says, my sheep hear my voice, and another, that even includes yourself, they will not follow. So I believe key number one is God speaks to faith. Satan speaks to fear, God speaks to faith. And when we want to hear the voice of the Lord, when we want to distinguish between the voice of the Lord and the voice of ourselves or anybody else, the first key is really coming into a place of faith. It's actually believing that you are hearing from God. In 1 Samuel 3, Samuel was hearing from God, but he didn't think he was hearing from God, so God didn't continue to speak to him. He thought it was a natural source, he thought it was Eli. So in a way that interrupted the flow of communication. But when Samuel said, speak Lord, for I, your servant, am listening. In a way it's like Samuel said, Lord, I'm going to believe that you are speaking to me. I'm going to believe that this is you, not me, not Eli. I'm going to believe you're speaking to me. And I believe when we step into faith, we shut down ourselves, we shut down Satan. The next point I would make really, and this is probably the golden rule in a way, is when you spend a lot of time every day listening to the Lord, I just mean walking and talking. In a way, the same voice, if you're hearing him say to you all the time, my child, my son, my daughter, I love you. If you're hearing the voice of the Lord convict you of sin, put his finger on things in your life, you get to know that voice. The challenge for most of us is we love God, but we live so far from him. And we hardly ever really need to hear his voice because we build our lives, we lean on our own understanding. And when we need to hear from him, we're not that familiar with his voice. And at times we're under more influence from the pressure of the situation than we are under the influence of his voice. I believe the key to hearing his voice, the key to distinguishing between you and him, is to practice. Keep walking and talking with him every day. Have a conversational relationship with him, and it becomes easy to hear from him. The very last thought as well is, I think Sean Boltz is good at teaching this. We should try to hear from God, but we should also notice the fruit of what we heard from him. Like, we should try and hear from God and then find out, was it really God or was it not? Did it come to pass? Was that person's name Gertrude or not? And then go back and say, okay, that was God, that wasn't God, that was me, that was God, that was me. And if we only try to hear from God at such a low level that we can never be wrong, we won't actually get the benefits of developing a testimony in that area as well. So, hope that's a help there.